Welcome to the National Institute for Health and Care Research Mentoring Programme. I'm Julie Haddock-Millar and I support the CPD, that is the Continuing Professional Development for mentors and mentees on the programme. In this recorded session, we're going to be considering how we review and close the mentoring relationship. We're going to look at four aspects in particular: why we review our mentoring relationships, who is responsible for the review, what should we review, and when. So starting with the why we review our mentoring relationships. Reviewing and evaluating the mentoring relationship is important for the development of both the mentor and the mentee, but it's also key for the organisation, the programme team, and the key stakeholders who are supporting the mentoring programme. Now, what we can see on the right-hand side is the European Mentoring Coaching Council Global Mentor and Coach Competency Framework. I've highlighted here for you the 8th core competence, which focuses on evaluation. And the EMCC describes how, as mentors and coaches, they will gather information on the effectiveness of their practice, which contributes to establishing a culture of evaluation outcomes. So there is very much an emphasis for both mentors and coaches on the ongoing review and evaluation of the mentoring relationship and their practice. There are 4 key stakeholders to consider for any mentoring programme: mentees, mentors, the programme team responsible for the mentoring programme within the organisational setting, and any programme sponsors. So typically that might be funders of the mentoring programme. For the mentee would want to review and evaluate and understand really if the mentoring is supporting any new learning, new insights. Is the mentee achieving greater clarity, changes and transitions that might occur, progress towards any specific goals or new directions? So the change and transition that's occurred for themselves throughout the mentoring relationship. For the mentor, reviewing and evaluating the mentoring relationship on a regular basis will help the mentor to understand the degree of trust that's been built, rapport. Is there a sense of direction for the mentoring relationship, the quality of the conversation, the enjoyment, the value, and overall satisfaction with the relationship? And it's an opportunity for the mentor to continually develop their knowledge and practice through the culture of evaluation. For the mentoring programme team and the organisation, it's an opportunity to consider whether the mentoring programme has supported the overall aims and objectives. Has it been successful? The processes, for example, matching criteria, training, ongoing support, have they all been successful in the view of the mentee and the mentor? And then the programme sponsors, so similarly, considering the aims, the objectives, but with the view to the overall investment. Has the programme provided a worthwhile investment? Does it strategically align, for example, to the organisation and the programme sponsors' long-term strategy? So who is responsible for reviewing the mentoring relationship? All stakeholders have a responsibility to engage in the review and evaluation. So mentees have responsibility for themselves and their mentor to engage in the review of the quality of the relationship and the learning that's taken place. The mentors, that ongoing responsibility to develop knowledge, skills, and practice, and commitment to professional development, their journey as a mentor. The mentoring programme team, the responsibility to review and evaluate the quality, the impact of the relationships, visibility and transparency for all stakeholders. And for organisations and sponsors to review again and evaluate the quality and the impact of the programme and the relationships, and ultimately the alignment with the programme aim and objectives. So what to review? So mentoring relationships can be reviewed from the process and outcome perspective. And we can also review individual mentoring sessions from a thematic perspective. So if we consider process, so we might consider the frequency of the mentoring meetings and the relationship, the duration, the mode and media, say for example, online, face-to-face, blended. Is there a clarity of purpose? To what degree is there trust, honesty and authenticity, for example? And then the outcome perspective. So reviewing the extent to which the learning and change has occurred. It might be in relation to behaviours, to performance, leadership, emotional support, confidence, self-esteem, resilience, work-life balance. These are all potential outcomes of any mentoring scheme and relationship. And review themes. So thinking in particular about each mentoring session. There's a number of themes that are outlined in a key text that's used for many mentoring programs, techniques for coaching and mentoring. And I've highlighted here just some of the themes that are discussed in detail in the text. So for example, focus. To what extent do the mentor or mentee have a sense of purpose for the mentoring relationship, direction, momentum, movement within the sessions? The progress. To what extent do the mentor or mentee notice changes and transitions in each of the mentoring sessions and overall in the mentoring relationship? Boundaries. How well have the mentor or mentee maintained the mentoring relationship focus and boundaries? Has it become more of a coaching relationship perhaps? Is it still firmly within the mentoring space? Power issues. To what extent is the agenda being driven by the mentee? Do mentees feel empowered by the mentor, for example? So these are just some examples that are expressed by way of themes to review in each mentoring session or overall in the mentoring relationship. So when to review? We would typically say to review at regular intervals. Of course, you could review every mentoring session, but typically we might say to review after the second or third session, an opportunity for the mentor and mentee to check in and review if the match of the mentor-mentee feels suitable and both parties feel the relationship is working. There's value in the relationship. There might be a midpoint review, or every 2 to 4 meetings continue to review to take stock what progress has been made, for example. And then the end of the relationship review, and we'll come to closing the relationship in just a moment, an opportunity to reflect on the relationship, the learning that's taken place, changes, transitions, new insights and new developments. So regular intervals, but to decide between a mentor and a mentee when might be best, depending on the frequency of the meetings. So closing the relationship. It's really helpful to plan to close the relationship so it doesn't come as a surprise to either the mentee or the mentor. And it really is an opportunity to give thanks to one another, to identify and celebrate the development, learning and change that's occurred in the time that you spent together, to reflect on what you might do differently next time, changes the relationship that might have occurred. Thinking about the next stage or phase of development for the mentee. So what comes next after the mentoring relationship? What support does the mentee have in place? And then saying goodbye and giving thanks once again. Sometimes challenging to do, but worthwhile to think about this in advance of that final session and to plan for it together to make the most of that final closing the mentoring relationship moment. So reflecting on this recorded session, there's some questions perhaps to take away. So thinking about your previous experience of mentoring, what emphasis, if any, has been placed on the review and evaluation of the relationship? How have you previously approached mentoring relationship closure? Is there any aspect of closure that you could have made it a more positive experience, perhaps? How might you approach review and closure in your current mentoring relationship and prepare for the closure of it? As always, there's some key resources. So we have a number of articles, published articles, around establishing and maintaining relationships, mentor functions and outcomes. We also have the EMCC Global Core Competence Framework. There's another article here that's listed, The Phases of the Mentoring Relationship by Kathy Cram. And then we have a video based on a piece of research for a mentoring program around ending on a high note, so effective closure of mentoring relationships. Thanks so much for listening to the session. And as always, there's a contact email for our colleagues in development support should you require any further information. Thanks so much.